Well, g'day and welcome to Stu's Shed. One of the advantages of the Torque Workcentre is the ability to do copying. Now there are two primary methods for using the Workcentre for that. One of them is to use a pin, which I have here, which actually fits into the table. And if you had a pattern, that would then follow the pin, and whatever was actually attached to the top of the pattern would get copied out. And that pin, just to show you, just that, it's got a 1/4 inch end, and I haven't actually measured to see what the other one is, but it's just a smaller one for more detailed work. And obviously what you do is you match your diameter of your outer bit to the size of the pin that you're using, so that you've got a 1-to-1 ratio. Now the other method for copying is actually using the copy attachment itself. Now what this does mean is you can actually have a separate pattern. In this case I'm using some letters, and these are ones I've just bought from a local craft shop, and just physically I've attached them to the table just by a few screws. If I was going to do this on a more regular basis, and in this case obviously sign writing, then I'd make up a bit of a method of actually attaching these and easily replacing them and putting the next one on. But for this demonstration it was just as easy enough to screw the letters down, and they're screwed down now nice and solid. Now the copy attachment itself fits onto the Torque Workcentre, and it's an arm with a pin, and obviously the router's remote from the, so you're not actually holding the router itself, you're holding the copy attachment. And so as you move the copy attachment around and its pin follows your pattern, it's going to duplicate that pattern into your workpiece. Now the primary thing obviously is that vertical pin, and again in the past what I've had is this, very similar to the pin that actually goes into the table for that attachment, with a 1/4 inch end and a finer end, and you just use whichever end was necessary. I had this one made up as a separate one. It's got a 1/2 inch at one end and a 1/4 inch at the other, and obviously it's a bit longer, a bit more substantial. But the latest idea that I've had, and I believe this is actually going into production, is to actually be able to use the router bit bearings. And so then you have a bit that sits on the end of the pin, and you can swap that on and put the next diameter on. So number of advantages. Firstly, you can actually match the pattern to the router bit, and obviously these come in a variety of sizes, so anything from the large one down to a very small one there, and you can match your pattern depending on the size of the curves, etc., to the router, to the bearing, and then to the router bit. And it also means that what I would do today, if I had that in place already, was I'd run a larger bearing first to do the initial roughing out, and then I'd change onto the final bearing, the bearing of the same diameter as the router bit, to get the accurate final pass. So you end up with a very neat finish, just taking off a skerrick of material to get the pattern down to, or to get your project down to the same size as your pattern. So you can do a bit of a roughing out quickly and obviously quite effectively, and then get that final finish as well. So that's on its way, I believe, as a concept. But as of today, what I'm going to be doing is I'm starting off in a similar concept. I'm going to stay with the same pin size in this case, but in this case I'm starting off with a smaller router bit, and then I'll change to a larger router bit, to a router bit that's the same diameter as the copying attachment pin, to do my final neat pass. What I've got here is just a bit of pine. It's no good example really. All I'm doing is I've just affixed it down to the table, again just for the sake of the video. I've just screwed that down, and I'm going to be duplicating the letters into it. Now, unlike normal sign writing, where you, or the traditional sort of sign writing that you get from a lot of places, templates and things, you'd be cutting your letter into the work, and you'd end up with a smooth surface with the letter cut out. The advantage that this gives you is the ability to create a raised letter, and in the past it's not really been possible other than doing it freehand. And well, there's been a few other ways, like you could use affix the template to the workpiece itself and then use a bearing bit to try and do a bit of duplication that way, but it's never been as convenient as what I'm going to be able to do today. So that's a bit of the intro, and what I'll do now is I'm going to turn on the dust collection. I've got the MicroClean air filter here to do a bit of collection there. I'll still use the overhead collector as well, and we'll get started. I've done a rough out of the first letter just quickly. I'll rough out the other two letters, and then we'll come in closer and I'll show you a bit more of a detailed view of the cutting and the copying. So that's obviously the initial pass. It's a rough, ready one obviously, so I'm not looking to get the final finish on that first pass. I'm just looking to remove a bulk of the material. And as much as the curves are okay, there's obviously a little bit of finishing to do, and that's simply going to be achieved by changing onto that the router bit that actually mounts the pin diameter, and then I'll be able to just take off that shaving all the way around to get the final finish. And also I can move on to a larger router bit to actually smooth out the recessed area as well. At the moment that's just, again, just very quickly bulking away the material. But certainly the concept comes through very strongly, that just how easy it is to actually do a raised letter, or even any other sort of pattern that you're planning on doing. I mean, obviously these letters are commercially produced very cheaply, And there's a whole heap of other templates and things like that they also sell in MDF in the craft wood. And you can get all sorts of toys and animals and stuff like that. So if you're looking at making kids furniture, for example, it'd be a very easy and quick way of actually detailing them and putting some just that extra layer of finish onto the project. And if you're just doing general sign writing as well, something like this becomes again very easy. The other thing that you could look at doing then is changing onto a bit of a rounding over bit, and again dressing your letters that way, still using the template even to achieve the make sure that you're not actually penetrating too deeply into the letters that you produced.